Yeah, and let's get into this. I wanted to talk today about the pound for pound list and talk about all that kind of stuff. I'm sure a lot of people, if not everybody, has saw that I was on the Max Kellerman show, Max Unboxing this past week, and we talked about the pound for pound list. They called me and asked me if I wanted to go on. It was actually my anniversary day when they text, and my dad said, "Yeah, he'll do it," and I didn't. I was away from my phone that day. But I would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
But then once I text and say, hey, so I want to be prepared. What are we talking about? And we're going to talk about the pound for pound list. I'm like, whatever. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it. And I told this to Max, I don't care for the pound for pound list. And I said, I'm going to contradict myself because I would love to be a part of it. I would love to be considered one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. The reason why I don't like this, the list, and because it's all subject to what you consider to be pound for pound, you know, and I don't think that there needs to be. I don't know why there hasn't been created a pound for pound criteria, things that you can fit guys into, and you can clearly say, okay, that guy got it, that guy got it. He doesn't, he's great, but he doesn't, and just keep it pushing, you know. But with that being said, the same thing goes for one thing that they talked about is it because of the things that you hear other people say and other people that the subjects that other people put out, is that something that other people just grasp a hold to, and those are the things that those people remember. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, clearly we all have our own biased opinions about things, but however, when Shawn Porter says something, now everybody watching this may go with Shawn Porter says, or if Shawn Porter saying everything that everybody else says, they're not going to stop and create something of their own. They're going to go with the Joneses, what everybody else is saying. And so I think the same thing goes for Floyd Mayweather. When we talk about him, you'll always get people arguing, saying, well, he fought this guy when he was over the hill. He didn't fight that guy until it was too late. The Manny Pacquiao fight happened 5 or 6 years later than it should have.
Canelo too early.
Canelo too early. And the list goes on and on. At the end of the day, he fought all those guys and he beat all those guys. But all those people are making arguments based on things that they've heard, not things that they're simply making a judgment call on their own, you know, or at least for a majority of those people. I know a majority of the people that I talk to, they're arguing me down based on something that they heard, not based on something that they feel from themselves. And so, you know, when we talk about this pound for pound list, like we're about to, I want to get all the way into it. So I asked you guys, you know, hey, come up with a list, top 10, top 5. You guys agreed that we would do top 5. I want to see how similar our lists are. Did you guys put them in the order 1 to 5?
Yeah.
All right, who's number 1? On 1.
Showtime, Shawn Porter now.
3.
Oh no, we're not doing it all the time.
Oh, we're doing. I'm with that.
I'm with
that. Oh, yeah, Carson. All right, Carson said no. All right.
Canelo. Did you say Canelo?
Canelo.
Look, he said, yo, did you say Canelo?
Well, I was too busy making fun of you for counting down like that. But yes, I have Canelo as well.
All right, Carson. So you got Canelo, Ant's got Canelo, I got Canelo. Carson, when you go ahead, do the rest of your list.
So I have number 2, I have Bud.
Bud.
I have
I got Bud. All right, let's just keep it going. I got Bud.
Yeah, just go all the way down. All right, so we got Canelo, Bud, and then 3rd I have Inoue.
Got Fury.
Oh, you got Fury. Okay, I got Spence at 3.
Okay, so all different.
And I'm not mad at Inoue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 4. Number 4, I had Usyk.
Okay. 4, I got Inoue.
I got Tank Davis.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
5.
Number 5.
I have Errol.
I have Errol Spence.
Number 5, I have Tyson Fury.
Okay.
Oh, so
and my 6th was Teofimo.
Okay.
I was thinking about putting him up there, but I just felt like he only had one big victory, but he has all the belts.
Hey, but crazy, right?
Yeah, that was my thing. I was definitely arguing that one.
So Carson, let's go back to you real quick. When you do your pound for pound list, like how do you create your pound for pound list?
Just making stuff up. But no,
you know what I mean?
I mean, it's I try to factor in there's I have no idea. There's like
be honest, Carson. Hey, Carson, I respect honesty, bro.
No, because I'm just like it's the logic is what guy is the best.
I do say I
pound
have
for
no
pound.
idea.
Meaning you take away like I don't know. It's just such like a random science. The way I looked at it.
Yeah. What random science?
Yeah, because it's not like you said.
You
There's
use
not a formula.
You use the
no.
therm-
So I'm just saying as it's the sweet science, but no.
All
so
right,
it's not
calm
be
down.
like, oh, okay, they have A, B, and C.
It's not a breakdown, Carson.
You're just picking random people based on random stuff. But for me, I had Canelo and Bud 1 and 2 because A, they're elite fighters, and B, they've been able to navigate different weight classes and achieve similar success.
There you go.
Anyway, I just feel like he's a lighter weight, but he can bang with anyone and is skill-wise, I think, one of the best fighters in the world. Usyk kind of similar to Bud and Canelo, where he's been able to go up. He hasn't been as successful at heavyweight yet, but
not yet.
Been able to navigate a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Errol, I think, kind of going back to Inoue, I think Errol just flat out is one of the best 5 boxers in the world. So
it sounds to me like one of your big components to being a pound for pound fighter is if you can move up a weight class or 2, or possibly move down 1 weight class. It's hard to go down.
Yeah.
If you can move down 1 weight class and still be, dominant, or move up 1 or 2, if not 3 or 4 weight classes to still be dominant.
Because I think that shows.
Yeah.
I think that shows your ability. That shows your mentality of wanting to conquer another weight class. Like Bud could have stopped at 40. Like Bud didn't need to go to 47, but he's like, hey, I'm a competitor. I want to fight the best. So he moved up to 47. So I think it is a combination of you have the ability to dominate multiple weight classes and you have the fighter's mentality of I want to continue to test myself and push myself.
Those are okay. Those are really the 2 things for you. What about you, Ant? How did you create your list?
I kind of just created mine off of like the dominance in the ring. Canelo, ever since he fought Floyd, just been dominant, controlling all the fights. I think probably his toughest fight, maybe what you got at 154? What'd you say?
Lara? You're
yep, Lara, and maybe the first Triple G gave him some resistance. Besides that, he's been dominant. Terence Crawford been dominant, running, controlling all the fights he had, just rolling through those guys. Tyson Fury, first fight he was winning the fight. He got knocked down late. That's about it. But besides that, Tyson Fury's been on the roll. And then the fight after the Wilder first, he took a major hit in that fight.
Yeah, big cut.
What'd you say?
Big cut in that fight.
Yeah,
after.
Big cut.
Yeah.
Earl Spence, he did what he had to do when it was time to get in the ring. Toughest fight so far has been Shawn Porter. Besides that, Errol Spence dominant. Dominant.
He's getting a nice little resume too.
Yeah, he's getting a nice little resume. Besides, he's missed a man down ever since the Mikey fight. Before that, he was blowing through people.
Yeah.
The last 3 fights is, I wouldn't say he's been exposed. He shows he can box. He shows he can brawl with you. Besides you, Earl's just been dominant. When he boxed, he basically won all the rounds boxing. He's probably won 24 of those rounds.
Did either you, maybe looking back on it, did either you base your pound for pound list based on resume?
Yeah, I think it factors in. I don't know how you could ignore that unless you're going on a blind test of just watching them fight. But even if you watch them fight, you're still considering the resume, because if I see Bud in there against somebody who's garbage in theory and dominate, then his resume is going to factor in because he's not fighting anyone that looks great. So I think it would be impossible to ignore a resume.
For me, when I do a pound for pound list, this is probably the first time I ever concentrated and focused on doing a pound for pound list, and I'm grateful that y'all only suggested we do 5 because I base it basically on the 2 things that you guys base it on. First, I am how dominant are you, and then what I did was basically, can you go up a weight class or 2, 3 or 4 and be dominant and be just as good and entertaining as you were at the current weight class that you are, and if possible, how dominant would you be moving down 1 weight class? Canelo, I mean, we've seen everything that he's done. I agree with you, Matt. Ant. Ever since he fought Mayweather, something just kind of has been different with him. I do think that they used that fight with Mayweather. I think that they watched it back, saw some things that they could improve on, saw some things that they could take from Floyd Mayweather and add to his repertoire and make it his own. You see him, he's much faster, uses a jab much more than he ever did before he fought Mayweather, and he's more elusive than he was before he fought Mayweather. The most dominant fighter in the world, doesn't matter what weight class he goes to, he's going to be the most dominant fighter in the world.
And Shawn, it shows how dominant he is because all the guys that fought Mayweather, he's the only one that kind of took that and took off with it.
Yeah.
A lot of guys fought Mayweather, but they didn't do it after Mayweather what he did.
Yeah, and he's young. He was at that point was young. He still is young. I don't even think he's 30.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's like, what is he, 27 or something crazy like that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so he was young enough to look at it as I lost to a great fighter, and how can I improve? And I mean, I'll tell him to his face, yo, man, you watched the fight. And you like what you saw out of Mayweather, and you made it your own, and you've done a terrific job. After Canelo, everything for me just kind of.
Canelo just turned 30. Sorry.
He just turned 30.
Yep.
Okay. I think after that you can basically put it in the cup, shake it up, and whatever comes out first comes out. I got Terence Bud Crawford. I just think that at the end of the day, he's been very dominant at 140, at 135, and now at 147. Everybody argues that he hasn't fought anybody at 47 yet. That remains to be seen. I got a good feeling that you will see just about the same things that you see from him at 135 and 140 when he gets in the ring with someone they consider to be someone of force at 47. Of course, that's outside of myself.
And more on Terence Crawford later, of course.
Carson, you would argue that, but I will not argue that I would put it to the kid and make that a really, really tough fight for him. I have Errol Spence Jr. right after Terence Crawford. No, Errol Spence has not bounced weight classes, but he's probably been second to Canelo in terms of domination, in terms of entertainment, in terms of everything that it takes to be a professional boxer and what people are looking for when they see professional boxing. I think that he exhibits all of that every time he gets in the ring, even in his first fight back after his accident against Danny Garcia. No, he didn't pound Danny Garcia in, and no, he wasn't as elusive and defensive and quick and strong as he was against somebody like Mikey Garcia. But I mean, I think if anything, Danny now has 3 losses, and I think that he handed Danny his most convincing and dominating lopsided loss that he's had so far as a professional fighter. Errol Spence Jr., he could be 2 or 3. Terence Crawford, 2 or 3. Gervonta Tank Davis, I really do think at 130, 135. I think even if he were to move up to 140, he is going to be a dominating force in this sport for a long time. I think he's got charisma. He's got energy. He's exciting. He's got a punch. Everybody loves a knockout punch in boxing. Gervonta Tank Davis has that. People don't have
extremely athletic.
And extremely athletic. I mean, what do you really consider to be your pound for pound list? For me, it's got to be your domination and your abilities as a fighter. It's not all about how many victories you have and how many losses you have and or draws. And it's not always about who you've fought against, because let's make it clear. We all have resumes, but if PBC doesn't put Terence Crawford in front of me, if Bob Arum doesn't want to make a fight with Shawn Porter, then the fight never happens. Doesn't mean I didn't want to fight Terence. Doesn't mean Terence don't want to fight me. It just means I'm not on his resume and he's not on my resume. Everybody I fought through my 33, whatever it was, 36 or 7 fights that I've had, those were all fights where where I was told, this is who you're going to get next. We don't always have a chance or an opinion or an option. Sometimes we just have to fight who we have to fight. So some guys out there just have the resumes that they have because those are the people who are put in front of them. That's my biggest argument when it comes to Terence Crawford is he's fighting everyone that's put in front of him and he's dominating all of them, you know. So the same thing goes with Gervonta Tank Davis. I think right now Leo Santa Cruz is more than likely the biggest name on his resume. He's been dominant every single fight that he's had, but because he doesn't have a resume like Errol Spence Jr. does now or like Canelo Alvarez does, do you eliminate him from the pound for pound rankings?
And I think people downgrade Tank a little bit and make him singularly about his power shots.
Right.
And like I brought up his athleticism, which I think is highly underrated. I think his ring IQ is highly underrated. Mm-hmm. Speed, I think people are like, oh, well, if he doesn't knock you out, I'm like, Tank is a great boxer. He's a great athlete. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good shout. He would probably be in my top 10 if we had done him, but I'm not going to do him.
Don't tell me you didn't enjoy what you saw, because I know you did. What you need to do now, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit that notification button. Check us out every week, every Tuesday, something new for you right here on the Porter Way Podcast.